Welcome to Café Grit. My name is Beth Anne Campbell, and I am the author of Where the Hell is My Bacon?, a book about a corporate team that triumphed over shitty leadership with the help of fried pork. I open Café Grit as a place where you can join me in figuring out how to channel your grit and find your voice in the world, whatever that means for you. This is the place to go when you've got the hankering for purpose, the taste for fulfillment, and you're tired of living the rat race. Thanks for stopping in. Café Grit is now open for service. Hey everybody, welcome to Café Grit. I'm your host, Beth Anne Campbell. This is the place to go when you've got a hankering for purpose, a taste for fulfillment, and you're tired of living the rat race. And oh, am I tired of living the rat race. Today, we're going to talk about applying for unemployment, which I have been attempting to do for the last couple of weeks. Yes, my friends, let's just dive right in. 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago from the recording of this podcast, my position was eliminated. After 23 years in corporate, this is the first time I've ever encountered a layoff. So please bear with me because I know a lot of you have been through layoffs before. You've been through firings, and I know that you've have a lot going on, probably in probably way worse situations than mine. And I want to kind of unpack, and I will do that over time. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it today, other than the unemployment benefits process. But suffice it to say that first of all, I'm doing well. Thank you. And so many people have reached out just to make sure that I'm okay and that I'm doing well. And I am. It has definitely been an experience and continues to be an experience. But I was well aware that I was going to be my position was going to be eliminated 4 or 5 months before it actually happened. How did I know this was going to happen? Well, to parody phrase Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones, I think and I observe things. That's what I do. So it was embarrassingly clear that I was being pushed out, even though no one would say anything. And even when I asked directly, I was told no. We'll talk all about that because there's a lot of shit going on there that I know a lot of you can relate to. I'll give you all the gory details in time for sure. For now, we're going to talk about applying for unemployment benefits and what a shit show that is. So I usually come to these podcasts maybe with a little outline. But in this case, I do have some notes. So if you see me glancing over, this is one of the rare times that Beth Anne Campbell's got to rely on the old details here because there's so much that I had to remember. So I'm going to talk today about the process of filing for unemployment, which if you're listening from outside of the United States, when you lose your job, you can apply to your usually either the state that you work in or your local state. In my case, since I'm remote, it's my local state for unemployment benefits, which is, for some people critical, and some people, helps you kind of get through the between jobs time. And I would argue that probably for most people, I'm not going to say it's not helpful, but it's not like they're giving you, it's not like you get your actual salary or anything close to it in some cases. So, but you get benefits, monetary benefits to carry you over until you get your next job. So my overall assessment of the unemployment process, since I have never done this before, this is my first time in 23 years of my professional career, is what the actual fuck. Like, I don't know how like people get through this. I think I'm a pretty smart person, and I have struggled with the amount of information and the amount of glitches in their software that I've had to encounter in the past couple of weeks. So let's pop in and see what I've gone through. It's probably every state's different, and some states are even worse, believe it or not, than what I'm going to tell you about today. So for those of you who are in states like I've heard like Illinois, pretty bad, or other states that are just even worse, I'm so sorry. Because if it's worse than what I've had to go through and continue to try to muddle through, I feel for you. So the first step that I had to do to go through the unemployment benefit process was to apply at the Virginia. This is the Unemployment Commission in the state of Virginia. So I live in the state of Virginia in the United States. And so there's a few things to fill out. And then there's like this massive 3-page form that you have to figure out. And I'll be truthful, I've never adopted a child, but it's probably almost as much information as if you had to adopt a child, because they're just asking for everything. The government is like really concerned, and rightly so, and I get this, that people won't abuse the system, but also there's a fine line between abusing the system and, actually people can't even figure out how to do this shit. So there's a lot of information that they're requiring on this 3-page form that I had to fill out. Thank God, things like your start date, right? And they put the fear of God in you all through this thing. Like, it's got to be accurate, because if it's not accurate, you're going to get denied. I don't know who's out there, if there's somebody like actually calling your job and saying, Beth Campbell said that she started on July 18th. Is this in fact correct? I don't know, but they certainly make you feel like that's what's happening. So, I mean, I only was at this, I had only returned to this current job for about a year. So I still had my offer letter, but shit, I was at a previous job for 16 years. People are at jobs for 20, 30 years. Do you remember your exact start date? I mean, I remembered this one because I looked it up and I found it on my offer letter, but otherwise I didn't know it by heart. I had to look it up. So I'm filling up this 3-page form, which was very, very glitchy. The software was very glitchy. Seriously, state of Virginia, get somebody. I have a great network of people that can probably help you with this, but seriously, do better testing or get better people in your IT people or whoever is putting this stuff, or get a better a product. A lot of the fields didn't work right. So for example, calendar fields, you could either manually put in the date, like there were a lot of requests for dates, and it doesn't automatically format with the slash. So even though it shows it doesn't. I mean, that's an easy thing to do. Like every fucking website in the world knows how to format a phone number with the dashes or the parentheses, or knows how to format a calendar date with the slashes or whatever you use. Nope, not this one. So, you'd type it in, but they also have an icon that you can click on so that you can just pick a calendar date. Wow, how great. Except that it didn't fucking work half the time. So I don't know how many times I had to put in my birth date, certainly more than once. And I would go and you could pick the month, the day, and the year from a dropdown, which I did. And then it would default back to, once I would click OK or click the last one, it would take me back to the form and it would have defaulted to the current date. So that was fun to do a couple of times before I realized I couldn't do that. And then I entered them manually and it was not auto formatted. So, that's fun. Just basic shit. I mean, I've been in IT for 23 years. And so this is just basic crap that just irritates the fuck out of people. Right. So it's not like I can't work through it. It just irritates the fuck out of people. It just makes a really shitty process even worse. So I'm going through some of these glitchy fields and I fill out these 3 pages of the forms online. And after you get the 3 completed, so you fill out page 1, next, page 2, next, page 3, next, and then it takes you to a duo form, like a multi-factor authentication. So you have to get a code sent to your phone or your email. So I chose phone, which I had entered in before the 3-page form. There was like some basic information. So thankfully it found my phone in it, because if it doesn't find your phone, then you got to start over. So I had my phone and entered, send me a text. So it sends me a text. I get a code. It's the right code. I press the code in, I push whatever the next button continue is, and it freezes. Just freezes. And so I wait, because as I've said, I've worked in IT for 23 years. I understand slowness. I understand systems that We don't want to just automatically jump, especially since I've just completed a fucking novel worth of information. So I'm okay. I'm just gonna wait. I actually go up and get a coffee because it's just sitting there. Now there's no spinning wheel or anything, but I'm just gonna wait just in case. After, a while, I come back, I got my coffee. It's still there. The only option that I have at this point is there's no button for me to click. They're disabled. The only option I have is to push the back button. The back button takes me all the way back to form number 1 of 3, and nothing has been saved. So I had to do the whole fucking thing again. Thank baby Jesus, when I got to the multi-factor authentication the second time, it actually did work and took me through, and I was able to get registered for the Virginia Employment Commission. So after that arduous situation, then I have to go, the next step is to go to the Virginia Workforce Connection. So you have to, because of course they want to make sure that you're applying for jobs. So you go to this Virginia Workforce Commission connection. So the Virginia Workforce Connection, where you fill out a lot of information, you upload your resume. Just another like pet peeve. LinkedIn has figured out how to do this. I know other sites have figured out how to do this. So Virginia Workforce Connection, if I'm uploading my resume, just fucking format it, because it looks like shit. You upload it and it's all, there's nothing formatted, there's nothing separated, it's all just rambly. I don't know how anybody would, if I saw my resume looking like that, I would be like, fuck no. But the alternative is you enter it all manually, and 23 years of stuff to enter manually is a shitload to add. I'll have to do that. I have not done that yet. I have to do a lot of things in the Virginia Workforce Connection because there's just a shitload. It's overwhelming, the amount of things that you can add. There's, you can do training and skills and all this, there's a dashboard with just like 50 links on it that you can go and do stuff. And again, it's just time, but the resume is updated. Of course, I've had 0 people look at my fabulous resume in 2 weeks, but okay. So you have to go to the Workforce Connection, upload your resume, etc. It didn't even have, it makes you select things like, like what the position that you're looking for. And it didn't even have the position. Like, I think it didn't even have project manager. It was just something really stupid that it didn't have. The other thing about that I have a problem with Virginia Workforce Connection or sites where you have to tie into and for your unemployment benefits. When you're applying for benefits, at least in the state of Virginia, you have to at least 2 times you have to apply for positions, and you have to. We'll get to this in a second, but you have to have a lot of detail that you have to record about those applications in order to get your benefits. What it doesn't account for, and this is going to sound a little whiny, and I get it for those of you who are out there, the thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who have used unemployment, but it doesn't account for networking. So somebody like me in my position, a professional position in IT tech, my best way to get another job is through networking. It's been shown time and time again, statistically speaking. I've heard something like 80% of professional jobs are achieved through networking. So if I'm talking to people in my network about potential jobs, I'm not applying. So there's no way to record some of the stuff that they will ask me for when I try to file a claim. So it's just a little pet peeve that it doesn't really account for somebody like me, a lot of people like me who are in professional positions where networking is more. So if I'm talking to somebody about a job and it may take a few weeks, I can't claim unemployment because I have not actually applied for a job and provided the date, the details of the application, the phone number of the company, the address of the company, et cetera, et cetera. And you have to do 2 each week. So in order to get your benefits. So there's the Virginia Workforce Connection, which I am still working on because, again, there's like a fucking buttload of links that you can go to fill in additional information. And I probably haven't just completed everything that I need to do in order to get in their system adequately. So the third thing that I had to do was to do this thing called ID Me. And as I said earlier, the government is really wants to ensure that nobody is taking advantage of the system, that you are who you say you are. And I get it. I really do. I am a fan of multi-factor authentication and identification. But this was like applying for TSA. It was like a 6-part thing. I had to provide driver's license number, social security number. They asked me questions that seemed to be from like a credit report. So remember back in the day when you actually had to pay or ask questions, or if you apply for a loan, they'll ask you all kinds of questions from your credit report. I got some of those for unemployment benefits. They did phone authentication, email authentication. I had to take a picture of my driver's license and then also take a selfie of myself so that they could compare. And meanwhile, there's like 6 different steps. Meanwhile, through this whole process, it was very glitchy. So like when I did my selfie compare, it acted like it was an error. So I'm like, fuck, so, I got to go all the way back to the beginning. And then it would say, when I went back to the beginning, it said, no, you're on to the next step. Great job. So it just, again, very glitchy and a lot of steps to go through to prove that I am who I am. Now, I opted for the online ID Me. You can also call somebody. You can do a video thing. You can also go in person, which we all know is just a pain in the ass. Why leave my house? So I'll take some of the responsibility for that because I chose to do this online. But really, it was just a lot of, again, I thought kind of overkill. So now I'm all in the system, and today I went for the first time to file a claim. And you file a claim like after the previous week. You've got to enter all full details of what you've applied to. So right, remember the requirement in the state of Virginia is you have to file, you have to apply for 2 positions every week 2 different positions every week in order to get your unemployment benefits. So I have not applied for any positions formally yet. And I'll talk about that in a second. But as I mentioned, so for those of you who are going through this process and you are applying, remember to record the phone number that you used, the address of the company, some details of the company address. Did I say that already? Yeah, company address. So they want some pretty good detail about each of the companies that you applied to. Again, I don't know if they're checking this stuff, but presumably I want the right phone number and the right address, because I don't want somebody calling, some general number and they'll be like, I don't know who fucking Beth Campbell is, because this is just the front desk. So my tip to you, at least if you're in the state of Virginia, is make sure you record all that information, probably a spreadsheet, which I do have and will use. The other thing that I find a little bit controversial about this requirement and the filing of the claim, well, first of all, number one, as I mentioned earlier, it really is not friendly if you're using your network. So again, for me, my network is probably my best recourse in getting my next adventure. So, but it's not accommodating to that. So the other part, and this is going to be maybe a little bit controversial, because I know there are people out there who probably, have done this multiple times. Maybe they're in an industry where you do have layoffs on a regular basis. I don't, right? So this is new to me, and I acknowledge that this may be controversial, and I acknowledge that this may sound like I'm just a whiny ass baby, and maybe I am, but mentally, emotionally, mental health wise, I have really not been in any position for the last 2 weeks to be able to navigate this stuff. I've done it because I've had to, but my mental health has probably made it even more difficult. And the thought of applying for a position in their workforce connection and actually going through an interview process before I'm ready, before I've been able to kind of resolve what I've just gone through, is it's hard to even think about that. I actually felt like a great relief when this initially happened. Again, I knew it was coming. I knew when I saw the one-on-one pop up on my calendar, I knew exactly what it was for. Did a little recon, came to the layoff meeting with some questions for HR even. So I knew it was coming, but it didn't make it any easier. My household just lost 2/3 of its income. And that's a huge burden. It's a huge burden on me as, the person who has, pulled in a pretty good income for the last 20 years. So, that's a heavy weight, right? So, even though I was relieved to not have to be in that toxic workplace where I was questioning my value, walking on eggshells, once I got through kind of the initial period of like a few days of like, okay, they hear people reaching out and there's, you're kind of a little distracted. Then you get the sense of fear and the sense of value and what are we going to do? And when the insurance runs out and can my husband get me on his insurance? And shit, I've got to, all the stuff that goes through your head. And then again, ultimately just thinking about going back to a place where I might have that pit of my stomach every, Sunday night or Monday morning. There's I guess what I'm saying is that there's an adjustment period, and it's probably a lot to ask or expect that, when you're going through, you're mentally trying to work through this process that the government should pay you for that. But I kind of feel like I pay a shitload into the government and I pay a lot in taxes. And there's a part of me that sort of feels like, we should be accommodating of people that need a little bit of an adjustment period. And maybe, again, that makes me sound like a whiny baby, but I just know what I've been dealing with in the last 2 weeks, kind of this up and down and sort of, being distracted and then, kind of being able to navigate through this unemployment process and some of these things, but the prospect of actually having to go through an interview when I'm just still sort of winding down and trying to figure out what the fuck, happened, even though I knew it was coming, but why is, that's kind of where I'm at. So you may agree or disagree, and that's okay. I realize that, that does sound a little privileged and elitist, but I also know that mental health is a huge part of what we deal with. And, when we help deal with it better, when we help people deal with it better, then it just makes the world a better place. So anyway, bottom line, it's taken me 2+ weeks to work through all of the systemic requirements to the unemployment benefits process. And that was me being a person who was prepared. I was very, very fortunate. Again, I saw this coming months away. I was chucking money in savings. I was cutting back. I was talking to people. I was documenting, taking training. There are a lot of people out there, and I don't know how do you do it when you have no clue, when all of a sudden, boom, you're completely unexpected. You no longer have a job. I had a friend who had this happen, who unexpectedly lost her job, and she was not prepared for this. She did not see it coming. So I don't mean to complain or sound like a baby, but there's so many people out there that are going through this who have way worse situations than me. I have access to, a good computer and all that stuff. And there are a lot of people who don't. I just think this is a system that's supposed to be there to help people get through a really, really tough time. And I understand that there has to be some checks and balances, and we have to put in something, in order to get those benefits back. But I just feel like it needs to be a little bit a lot more friendly. I think the government needs to ensure that people don't take advantage, but, basically the system as it stands is kind of a bitch. So, so what is my lesson here? I don't get laid off. That's, I know a lot of you, again, have been unexpectedly laid off and have had to navigate this shithole of a system. And then you ultimately get a few $100s, which for some people I know is absolutely 100% critical. I'm not, I don't mean to diminish that. Actually, you should probably get more. And for those of you for whom that money is critical, how the fuck do you deal with it? How do you fucking deal with this shithole system? that is almost impossible to navigate. Or maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know. I just find it to be like, what the actual fuck? That's all I have to say. So I do want to hear from all of you about your experience with unemployment benefits. I'd like to hear from some folks also in other countries who have different systems. Maybe you have more government friendly types of insurance and stuff where you don't have to worry about that stuff. Tell me what you have to go through when you lose your job. And for those of you in the States, tell me about your particular state and how horrible they are, or maybe not so horrible. And am I just being a baby? It's okay. You can tell me. I can take it. So that's my unemployment story. Again, I have a lot more to tell. A lot. In fact, I've kind of made this a series. So if you're looking at the podcast title, it's going to say I got laid off : something. So this one is I got laid off : unemployment or something like that, because I have a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. Thank you so much for those of you out there who have stuck with me. I know I've been a little sporadic. The last couple of years have been kind of difficult going. I've been back and forth on a couple of jobs, and I've really had to hold back a bit. I was at this consulting firm that I just got fucking laid off, my position eliminated at. Actually, I should say I was at this fucking consulting firm for which I just had my position eliminated. And then I was incented to come back to a utility that I worked in. And I was there for only a year because 4 months after I started, came back for a specific team, a specific job, a manager role, and all of that went away because they did this massive reorganization of how they were doing things. And the first week that I was there, somebody complained about my social media, didn't like me swearing, and they really brushed over it. To their credit, my boss was awesome, and he said, like, please don't leave. But I had to kind of, I don't know, pull back a little bit from my normal, sort of being in your face, calling it out. And then when I went back I was asked to come back to this consulting firm, this fucking consulting firm. And I really, really wanted to do it right and make a difference. And it was on great terms for a great boss and a great team. And I really had high hopes until things changed, which we'll talk about in great detail in a few podcasts. But, so again, I was sort of holding back a bit, but now I'm not holding back because these things need to be said. And a lot of you go through this shit and it's not good and it's not fun. And it is, for many people, traumatic and difficult, and just makes, and it really does mess with your mental health. So thank you for those of you who have stuck by, continue to listen as these podcasts come out periodically. I've got some time now as I navigate the unemployment system and work on my next job adventure, but certainly have some free time. And I plan on doing a lot more of these more frequently, so get on a better cadence. So thank you for sticking with us, with me, me and all of my other personas. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Beth Anne Campbell. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I've got I'm kind of on TikTok, but not a whole lot. But hey, Threads, new Threads, right? Threads is the new Twitter, and it's still kind of ramping up. But if check me out there as well, I'm at the Bean67 on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube at the Bean, and please like and subscribe. Give me a rating or review. I am so appreciative. And never, ever, ever forget, no matter how shitty of a job you're in, no matter how traumatic it is, no matter how much it messes with you, don't ever forget that you are a fucking badass. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Take it easy. Hey everybody, thank you for stopping by Café Grit, where the moxie is fresh, the passion cold brewed, and everything is served with a heaping side of mojo. For more Café Grit episodes, please check out bethannecampbell.com/Café Grit. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving it a rating or review on YouTube Buzzsprout, or your favorite streaming platform. I'll be forever grateful, and in return, I'll wish upon you copious amounts of bacon, your favorite hot beverage, and of course, pie. I'd love to connect and hear about your grit experiences as well. Please go to bethannecampbell.com for links to all my social media. Café Grit is a product of Beth Anne Campbell, LLC, all rights reserved. Thanks again, and remember, you are a badass. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Take it easy.